everyone wants is to keep any anti-tank teams off our AAVPs until we clear the beach.
While the original Operation Flashpoint Cold War Crisis would later get the Arma games as its successors, in 2009, Codemasters brought forth Operation Flashpoint Dragon Rising, a real-time tactical shooter that tried to appeal to both the console and PC market. Easily, its biggest draw was its rather intense and realistic multiplayer that console owners liked at the time. However, the servers have been shut down for years since Codemasters' closure, so what we're left with is a decent campaign with solid mechanics weighed down by a lack of polish. The story is almost non-existent, taking place in 2011 on the fictional island of Skira, a small bit of land in the ocean between Japan and Russia with a large reserve of untapped oil. Both Russia and China claim the island by right, each needing the resources for their economies. This results in mounting tensions as China begins an occupation of Skira, prompting a US response from Japan. You jump between a US Special Forces commando and a Marine Corps sergeant, so yeah, Call of Duty, Call of Duty. Your missions usually involve denying the Chinese access to the island, involving various tactics from sabotage, assassination, and taking control of the enemy's positions. Unfortunately, there is no Chinese side to the conflict, which would have been really interesting and add a ton of replayability. As it stands, there's no detail or depth to this potentially earth-shattering conflict. However, there is some personality in the characters. The Spec Ops dude is professional and to the point in his missions, while the Marine takes everything a bit more casual with the correct usage of swear words. Nice. The objectives that you and your team must carry out are delivered in the briefing for each mission. Where to go, what to do, who you're going to engage, and what to expect are well described and laid out, leaving little room for confusion. Usually, the missions involving subterfuge and espionage are done by the Delta Force dudes, and the heavy assaults of other infantry and army units are carried out playing as the grunt. So yeah, just like Call of Duty 4. They're by no means original, but thanks to the size of Skira, some very engaging missions and battles do take place. The maps are huge. Admittedly, there are problems with the draw distance, but when you're tasked to take over an airfield, you do just that with an area load screen in sight. Easily the most interesting and exciting points of the game involve you racing across tracts of land while bullets whiz past you from the enemy's positions. That raw, dead-in-a-moment intensity makes simple firefights nail-bitingly fun. Throughout the game, you start each mission with 3 squad mates you can order around. The squad's control system is alright. You have a hot wheel you can quickly open up to get your guys moving, but it gets bogged down really quickly. Any kind of commands that are more complex than follow and hold fire will be either ignored or totally botched up, usually a combination of both. Occasionally I've had them get lost in the wilderness, turning up on the other side of the map, refusing to return. I've also died multiple times thanks to a medic who wouldn't turn around and patch me up, which gets really annoying the more it happens. Well, they're not worthless, or even really that incompetent, there are glimmers of intelligence there. I really like it that you and your teammates can spot enemy positions, marking them in your compass. They definitely can hit enemies from distance, which is really helpful in combat, and I do appreciate that they can drive you around in a vehicle. However, if you're hoping to pull off some cool, intricate strategies with your teammates, no luck here. But honestly, the AI in general isn't all that good. Enemies don't display much intelligence besides holding their position and rushing yours. The better equipped soldiers do employ more interesting maneuvers, such as searching you out, but that's the exception, not the rule. Be ready to see static troops parade around as you plug them from a few feet. Your playstyle of Dragon Rising will greatly change depending on the difficulty you play on. On normal, when you reach a checkpoint in a mission, you and your teammates' conditions are completely restored, even if they're dead. This makes things a bit more casual, since even though you may lose everyone under your command, they'll pop up totally fine. The HUD displays waypoints and important targets, negating more cautious tactics like recon. However, on hard, the frequency of checkpoints is greatly reduced, as well as your team's ability to recover after severe injury or death. Your HUD is significantly reduced in details, which really ratchets up the atmosphere and challenge. Taking damage is broken up in where you're hit and how serious the wound is. Injuries to the head will cause a blur effect on the screen, while a busted leg will stop you from running or moving altogether. This can result in taking numerous shots before being incapacitated. Of course, you can still get dropped dead by a single rifleman's round, and CQC is really just a faster way to die. When you are hit, you'll begin bleeding out, eventually dying if you don't seal up the wound. The only way you can properly recover is by calling over a medic to patch you up. Good luck if he dies on the way, or gets lost. Combat functions similar to most other tactical shooters. You can crouch and prone, affecting the enemy's ability to get a bead on you, as well as your overall aim. There's a fairly accurate bullet drop system in place, making actual long range combat feel more real instead of bullshit. Though the multiplayer contained more weapons, you still get a fairly wide selection of firearms that look and handle reasonably like their real life counterparts. The US weaponry changes depending on the character you play as, with the Spec Ops levels having more advanced hardware from the get-go, while the Marines having more standard armaments. Unfortunately, regardless of who you play as, there's a serious lack of ammunition for your weapons, with the numerous hostiles and lengthy missions consuming a meager supply in no time flat. This forces you to scavenge the Chinese equipment off the environment. These weapons are rarely seen in games, so getting to use them finally was definitely a lot of fun. And while I enjoy the intensity and challenge of combat, I found the difficulty jump from fair to cheap and annoying. Now the game uses checkpoints, which is fine, however they're woefully spaced out. Sometimes you receive a checkpoint after completing an objective, other times you have to complete half a dozen before the game throws you a bone. It's made worse with how sometimes a checkpoint will only activate if you enter the area correctly. This can get really fucking annoying since it doesn't matter what crazy shit you just went through to complete your objectives, because you didn't approach the waypoint in the correct way, no break for you. Still, some parts of the game go on far too long. A couple of times you have to trek kilometers, actual kilometers, on foot without any sort of continue, which is frankly cruel when you finally die. The last mission has a 30-minute stretch of difficult combat objectives without any room for a screw-up. Awful stuff. Generally, while I like the levels and the combat, it never really varies. You're always on foot walking around. You can drive a vehicle a couple of times, except when you do, enemies will blow you away with grenade launchers and rockets, immediately killing you and your team. Doesn't mean I didn't have some great fun. Getting access to artillery is an amazing experience, with whole buildings getting wiped out, coupled with the excellent vistas giving an impressive sight to behold. The large maps do give you some impressive sights, with great audio and visual details, like the shockwaves from explosions and their delay thanks to the speed of sound. I think a lot of the game's technical shortcomings is a direct result of Codemasters trying to sell the game on both the hardcore PC market as well as the more casual console market, resorting to some blemishes like the low quality textures and mediocre models. Still, I got a fair bit of enjoyment out of Dragon Rising, just a shame the multiplayer component is dead and buried. If you can find it on the cheap, I can easily recommend it. Especially the PC version with less loading and less bullshit.